Vivien Leigh will be forever remembered for the most famous female film role of all.
Oh, Hedy Lamar's here, but darn it, with her husband, Gene Martin. Everybody, you bet everybody.
Time to win that battle. Of course she did. And she was very remarkable in the last few years of her life.
She was adored by millions, yet deeply alone. Vivien Leigh, a name etched in Hollywood history. She won 2 Academy Awards and captivated the world as Scarlett O'Hara. Her beauty, poise, and talent made her an icon of the silver screen. But behind the glamour, there was pain, struggles with mental illness, a turbulent marriage to Laurence Olivier, and a daughter, Suzanne, who grew up far from the lights of Hollywood. While the world celebrated Vivien's every move, Suzanne Farrington lived a life of quiet obscurity. No interviews, no spotlight, no trace in the public eye. So what happened to her? Why did the daughter of a film legend choose silence? And what does her story reveal about the cost of fame? Before we continue with the story of Suzanne Farrington, the forgotten daughter of Vivien Leigh, we would like to ask you to support our channel and subscribe. We are on the road to 1,000 subscribers, and your support means a lot to us. If you're enjoying this video so far, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more untold stories from the golden age of Hollywood. Now, let's dive into how it all began. Before she became a legend, Vivien Leigh was a determined young actress named Vivian Mary Hartley. Born in 1913 in British India and sent to convent schools in England, Vivien developed a fascination with literature and drama early on. Her beauty stood out, but it was her fierce ambition that drove her. In 1931, she enrolled in the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art in London, intent on making a name for herself. Around this time, she married Lee Holman, a quiet London barrister nearly 13 years her senior. The marriage was conventional, and in 1933, she gave birth to their daughter, Suzanne. Yet motherhood did little to quell her desire for the stage. Vivien was restless. While she performed in small productions, she studied actors with an obsessive eye. Her breakout came when producer Alexander Korda saw potential in her and cast her in British films. By the mid-1930s, she was gaining recognition in London's theatre world. But it was in 1936, on the set of Fire Over England, that Vivien met Laurence Olivier, a man who would alter the course of her life and legacy. Olivier was already a respected actor, intense, magnetic, and fiercely devoted to his craft. He was also married to actress Jill Esmond. Vivien, too, was married, and Suzanne was just a toddler. But what began as professional chemistry quickly deepened into something undeniable. During the years that followed, Suzanne would occasionally spend time with Olivier's son from his first marriage, Simon Tarquin Olivier. They were close in age, and their relationship went beyond the formality of step-siblings. Holidays were sometimes spent together, and they shared family dinners, laughter, and moments of warmth amid the otherwise complicated dynamics. In a world that often felt fragmented for Suzanne, these glimpses of togetherness were small but meaningful constants. Though brief, these times offered Suzanne some connection to the family her mother had chosen, and she remained fond of Simon throughout her life. They exchanged letters, arranged secret meetings, and performed together in Shakespearean plays. The press caught wind of the affair, and scandal followed them everywhere. Yet Vivien believed it was fate. She once said she had loved Olivier from the moment she saw him. Eventually, they left their spouses. Vivien and Olivier married in 1940, becoming one of the most celebrated couples in theater and film. But Suzanne did not come with her mother. Vivien's decision to pursue her new life meant that Suzanne was left in the care of her grandmother, Gertrude Hartley. Vivien remained in touch through letters and gifts, but her focus was on Hollywood, her marriage, and her increasingly demanding roles. As Vivien and Olivier ascended to international stardom, Suzanne was growing up quietly in the English countryside, a world away from the glamour and chaos. In 1939, Vivien Leigh became a global phenomenon. Her portrayal of Scarlett O'Hara in Gone with the Wind won her an Oscar and immortalized her in cinema history. The pressure of fame, however, began to take its toll. Vivien suffered from bipolar disorder, though at the time it was poorly understood. Her mood swings, depressive episodes, and public outbursts strained both her career and her personal relationships. Despite this, she continued working. Waterloo Bridge, That Hamilton Woman, and later A Streetcar Named Desire brought her more acclaim and another Oscar. But behind the scenes, she was unraveling. Her marriage to Olivier, once seen as unbreakable, became volatile. Her illness grew worse, and her ability to maintain personal relationships, especially with her daughter, diminished. Suzanne, still under the care of her grandmother and father, saw her mother only occasionally. Vivien's stardom had come at great personal cost, to her health, to her marriage, and most of all, to her role as a mother. Suzanne Farrington rarely spoke of her childhood, but those who knew her say she was kind, intelligent, and dignified. She initially pursued acting, enrolling at the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art, RADA, in 1951 and participating in public performances. However, after 2 years, she decided not to continue in her mother's footsteps. Instead, she began teaching at her grandmother Gertrude Hartley's Academy of Beauty Culture in Knightsbridge during the late 1950s, a quieter, steadier form of artistry that suited her more reserved nature. Later in life, Suzanne also developed interests in painting, sculpture, and ceramics, and she remained deeply engaged in the arts, albeit privately. She had a passion for travel, animals, and history, elements that shaped her creative expression and enriched her life outside the public eye. In 1957, she married Robin Farrington, an insurance broker. The couple settled into a calm, private life in Wiltshire, raising 3 sons. Unlike her mother, Suzanne chose not to live in the public eye. She turned down interviews, declined media appearances, and avoided discussing Vivien Leigh in detail. She didn't attend premieres or retrospectives. In an age obsessed with celebrity, Suzanne seemed to move in the opposite direction, and yet she quietly carried her mother's legacy. After Vivien died in 1967, Suzanne inherited her letters, journals, and personal effects. These items later became crucial to biographers and historians trying to understand Vivien Leigh beyond the screen. But Suzanne never exploited that legacy. She preserved it, protected it. She allowed the world to remember Vivien as it wanted to, but chose not to reshape the narrative herself. Interestingly, Suzanne remained close to Laurence Olivier's son from his first marriage, Simon Tarquin Olivier. Though not related by blood, they were step-siblings during formative years and shared a warm bond that lasted into adulthood. Suzanne's coming-out party was even hosted at Olivier's London flat, and Simon was present. However, she is not known to have had any significant contact with Olivier's later children, with Joan Plowright, as they were born after Suzanne was already living independently. In a way, her silence said more than any interview ever could. Suzanne also took part in preserving her mother's legacy through action. She donated many of Vivien Leigh's personal items, including costumes and memorabilia, to museums like the Victoria and Albert Museum and the Fashion Museum in Bath. These contributions became the foundation of public exhibitions that celebrated Vivien's career. In 1972, she quietly attended a ceremony for the Vivien Leigh Circle at Denville Hall alongside her grandmother. And in 2003, she made a rare public appearance at the opening of the Farrington Music School, named in honor of her late husband, Robin. Though she rarely stepped into the spotlight, she did so with grace when it honored her family's legacy. Vivien Leigh lived in full view of the world. Her triumphs were celebrated, her struggles sensationalized. She was a woman of passion, vulnerability, and artistic fire. Her life was grand, dramatic, and deeply public. Suzanne Farrington chose something else. She chose steadiness over spectacle. Her life was built on privacy, family, and the deliberate rejection of fame. While Vivien lived in headlines, Suzanne lived in peace. And yet there was love. Despite the distance, despite the years apart, there is evidence that Vivien cared deeply for her daughter. In her letters, she referred to Suzanne with tenderness. She left her estate in Suzanne's hands, and perhaps in her final years, she understood what her ambition had cost. Suzanne never sought revenge or validation. She never corrected the record or spoke out. She simply lived with dignity, with grace, and with the quiet strength of someone who had learned to accept the mother she had and the life she'd chosen. In the end, Suzanne Farrington lived a life that could not have been more different from her mother's. Vivien Leigh dazzled across decades, adored, scrutinized, remembered. Her life played out in lights, headlines, and awards. She was a woman consumed by her passions, for art, for love, and for greatness, no matter the personal cost. Suzanne chose stillness. She turned down the allure of celebrity, the temptation to speak out, to cash in on her name. Hers was a life of privacy, family, and quiet strength. She kept her mother's memory intact, not by retelling the story, but by protecting its artifacts, its truth, its nuance. She reminded us silently that not every life worth remembering needs to be performed. When she passed away in 2015, there was no media storm. No official cause of death was announced, and she died peacefully at her home in Wiltshire, surrounded by the privacy she had always cherished. No tabloid tributes, just quiet acknowledgments from those who understood what she had chosen. Perhaps that's the real legacy, that while Vivien Leigh captured the world, Suzanne Farrington simply lived in it. And sometimes the most extraordinary choice is to walk away from the stage. If you found this story compelling, consider giving the video a like. It helps more people discover the hidden chapters of Hollywood history. What did you think of Suzanne's choice to live privately? Do you think fame always comes at a cost? Let us know in the comments below. We'd love to hear your thoughts. And if you'd like to uncover more untold stories from the golden age of cinema, don't forget to subscribe. There's always more behind the curtain.